The blog that you're involved with now is a constant destination on the internet for me as a total amateur. I want to talk about how that came to pass. So this, Meryl Stubbs is the partner on this blog.
That's right.
And it's food52.com.
Yes.
And it's a lot of recipes, but to just call it a blog or a website that contains recipes is not to do it justice. Talk about how you
it's really a food community.
Right.
I mean, because it's not just us, it's this whole community of people who are involved. And essentially, we were interested in the concepts of crowdsourcing and curation because we feel like that was very much missing online, that we knew that there had been this kind of cultural shift. You know, Americans have gone from being really interested in food to like really knowing a lot about food and having very specific expertises. And the evidence of this is the thousands of food blogs that have proliferated, right?
Indeed, yeah.
Because people now have so much conviction, they actually want to express themselves and be credited for it. And we wanted to kind of focus, create this platform where the crowd, like together, kind of finds and elevates these great cooks and their recipes.
Right.
And we just wanted to start with recipes to begin with, but we'll start adding other elements of food, so it becomes this kind of hub of all things food that's curated by everyone.
By everyone.
Yeah, so, and vetted.
And the recipes are vetted, and the recipes specifically are vetted by everyone. So
Yes.
if something goes on this site and you encounter it, you can be sure that people who actually do care enough to take the time they've got your back.
Right, exactly.
What about the medium of the internet as a food writer versus the old print that we all grew up, some of us grew up only knowing that, and others of us have kind of straddled, but in any case, how is the internet as a place to do your work versus print?
I love it. I mean, I you know, the thing that I sort of found in working on the Essential New York Times cookbook was that I called on readers to send me their favorite recipes. And what I discovered in the thousands of emails and letters that I got was like, wow, there's this huge community out there that has a relationship with the New York Times and the New York Times food pages. And that's sort of what is lacking in the sort of old style media, is that there's like disconnect between the writers and the people who are reading them. And there's this missed opportunity for a really rich conversation around those topics. And so that's what the internet sort of provides, so that instead of just kind of broadcasting what you're writing about and then not hearing anything back, there's this kind of exchange.
It's cool that you've been able to make both work. You still have one foot on the old, but actually one foot in the new. And in a way, as you refer to the crowdsourcing that's the basis for this community, we come back to the cookbook, because the cookbook is effectively crowdsourced. It was crowdsourced before we even knew there was the term crowdsourced.
Exactly.
In that so much of it was solicited from the outside.
Yeah.
I want to go back to what didn't make the cut. So 400 recipes essentially you made and said no, not one, two.
Well,
examples.
I'm going to give you an example. There was this plum dessert that it was kind of with an almond crumble. It was my own recipe. I know, and I revisited.
You didn't make the cut, actually.
I didn't make the cut, so I revisited it, and I thought, well, what awful person came up with this recipe?
Me.
Yeah.
You know what it needed? Powdered sugar.
I think
Actually,
so.
if only you had done that. So, and it was primarily a case of just, I tried this, bleh.
Well, yeah, the proportions were off. You know, I mean, I knew I had made it before, but I think that when I actually wrote it down and published it, I must have messed something up, and I don't know what. But that was not going in the book. There were a few unmentionable things, but you know, even there were some recipes that were recommended by 3 people.
Still not good.
And I just sort of felt like when I had tens of thousands of recipes to choose from, like they had to be things that I would, you know, be excited to make again, or that said something about like the way we eat, or you know, that had some interesting detail or technique.
Yeah, it's actually very interesting that you say that. I want to make it again, because as I encounter a lot of recipes and cookbooks, I think I might make this once. I'm not necessarily inclined to make it again. So this is not just a cookbook that is for the occasional use. You're trying to build something that's for everyday use.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And also the one that has like this broad range of classics, and then these kind of like surprise gems that you haven't heard of, or that have kind of gotten lost in the course of history. And yeah, I mean, it really needs to be this. And my view is that it needed to be a book that had a narrative, which I think people forget, that cookbooks really need to have a narrative, and that also kind of touched on all these kind of seminal points in our food history.